Hello, my name is Annette Smith, and I want to introduce you to my debut novel, Etched. Etched is a multi-generational African-American, you can say, love story. It is not just one love story, there's several love stories in here. And you start in 1929, and along the way, you're taken on a journey. This journey takes you to the 1800s, where you're introduced to ancestors, so to speak. My ancestors, your ancestors, but there's several ways that you can view Etched. Etched will not let you go until your heart, which it touches, is satisfied. In Etched, there's Aunt Bess. Aunt Bess is the historian, so to speak, of this story. She takes this story and unravels it for you, not in the sense of it's tangled, but she needs for you to understand deeply a history of a family, her family. And she tells this story to her niece, Gina May, who comes to her with circumstances from South Carolina. But Aunt Bess wants her to know that her circumstances are not unique to the family. And in order for Gina May to get a full understanding, Aunt Bess takes her to meet her seminal great-great-great-grandmother, Jenny May. And then she meets Jenny May, milkweed, cornbread, molasses, and of course, Mama May. And nothing can be complete till you meet Mama May. And Mama May holds what everyone needs. She has strength of character. Mama May has strength of spirit. Mama May has the strength that helps slaves to get through one horrid day to another. When Mama May has to make a decision about her own daughter, she braces herself, she makes her decision, and she says to her daughter Bertha May, go and live. So I invite you to join me on this Etched journey. And when you're done, go, live, breathe, and tell someone else they should read Etched. Because an etched heart cannot be fully satisfied until all its desires are met. Thank you. Hello, my name is Annette Smith, and I would like to spend a few seconds and read to you for a moment from my debut novel, which is entitled Etched. I'm choosing to read from Chapter 1 because everything has a beginning, and in this moment we're talking about Aunt Bess. It's Chapter 1, A Time for Everything. Gina Pearl Fields. Everything's got its time. That was my Aunt Bess's favorite saying. It didn't matter what life threw her way. She always said, everything's got its time. It didn't make sense to ask her when that time was, because all she would say, God's time, His time is not ours. Have faith. It was all about faith for her. Faith and Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1, chapter 8. If you ever appeared to question God and His timing, she would snatch her Bible, which was always within arm's reach, turn to the page, and point. No one ever read where she was silently pointing. We knew what it said. Those verses described the women in our family. We lived every line. A time to be born. Giving birth is what started most of the women in this family down one rough road or another. And a time to die. When the women of this family died, they took your heart and soul with them, leaving you to reevaluate living. A time to plant. We were gardens always ready to be planted. None of us ever refused a baby seed. It was one of those baby seeds that was responsible for bringing the curse on us. And a time to pluck up what is planted. I was the only one ever to be plucked up and sent away from Promised Land. Before that, every female in this family grew into her own right there. The curse was there. They all knew about it, was told about it, yet none escaped it. Every woman did her fighting and struggling, trying to break the curse right there in Promised Land. How could they not? The place was called Promised Land after all. To hear my Aunt Bess tell it, the place at times was their Canaan as well as their wilderness. A time to kill. God kept his hands on us. If it wasn't for him, a few men, and some women too, would have met him through us. And a time to heal. Since everything had its time, we knew that eventually the hurt would heal. But until then, we licked our wounds, nursed our pain, and prayed the hurt prayer. Help us run this race. We prayed our hurt prayer till healing showed up. A time to break down. The breaking down started with my daughter, and after that, it hung in the air, waiting for the next one whose hurt ran deep and for whom escape seemed impossible. And a time to build up. Aware of the breakdown hovering over us, we stayed strong because we knew the journey back was rough. A time to weep. We wept so often. I'm sure there's a river in heaven called the mighty Greenwood. And a time to laugh. We laughed to stay one step ahead of the breakdown. A time to mourn. Mourning is never easy. Once you get past the first one, it gets a little easier. Never easy, just easier. And a time to dance. We danced. It kept us from mourning too long. A time to throw away stones. My mother treated me like a dirty stone. She didn't have a glass house, so she didn't worry, nor look when or where she threw me. And a time to gather stones together. I was never gathered back. I promised myself after that no daughter of Promised Land will ever know what it feels like not to be gathered back home. A time to embrace. We embraced, and how? And a time to refrain from embracing. Some of us, because those hard life lessons learned quickly about refraining from embracing, but others, a time to seek. And did we seek? Not all the seeking was done by us. Sometimes people sought us out. And a time to lose. Those losses made us thankful for a gathering place. A time to keep. Some of us failed to recognize when something was a keeper. And a time to throw away. Not all of us got a time to keep right, so we often kept what should have been thrown away. A time to tear. Sometimes we, the daughters of Greenwood, did this, and it wasn't always strangers we tore up. And a time to sow. Love of family is the best thread to use to repair tears of any kind. A time to keep silence. If we'd gotten this right, our journey to peace would have been much quicker and quieter, a lot less kicking and screaming. And a time to speak. Because we never learned when the right time to be silent was, tearing, temper, and temperance kept us talking even when we should have been quiet. A time to love. We lived to love, even though it sometimes caused us agonizing pain. That's where the hurt prayer came in handy. And a time to hate. No one in particular taught us to hate. However, living, loving, and losing did. Losing and weeping kept it around. A time for war. Mine started with my mother finding, gathering, and clinging to a husband and tossing me to the wind so she could get her happy ever after. She and I never battled, but the pain of that rending stayed with me forever. And a time for peace. There's no moment like when you realize that you've found it. It's like walking in warm summer rain. Chapter 1. Ch.